It's time to finish the yellow and lacy journal. I have finished two signatures and they are full of good stuff, but I need a cover. I hadn't done it this way before where I made signatures first and then do cover later. It just sort of worked out that way, right? So I have these two fat signatures, and I'd found it all started with this paper. This little bit of paper that I had two pieces of that I could make two journal covers, and then everything evolved from one piece of paper. So isn't that fun? Now I had all this yellow stuff, yellow lace and ribbon and everything. But it all started with this. And I went, well, what am I going to use for the cover? So I went to the fabric store and I found this. Isn't it lovely? I just was going like, well, that's marvelous. Here's the yellow roses. I mean, it's a beautiful match. It looks fabulous. So great. That's what I'm going to use. Awesome. So there are no patterns for this. And I've been sewing most of my life. So I just, I know that I can figure this out, right? So I hope that by my talking about how I'm thinking through making this cover with the fabric, that it will help you if you want to make a fabric cover, because there's kind of a lot to think about. And I had some choices because what I could do is sew, I have two pieces of fabric ready and they are larger obviously than the cover. This I have my interior here. So one of the things I could do is I could sew them into the shape and insert cardboard. So that was one idea. But I have quite a lot of this heavy duty Pellon type of material that I used in the two vinyl journals that I made, the brown vinyl masculine themed journals, which both have found homes, by the way. So I'm happy about that. And I hope those folks are enjoying their journals. So I have a lot of this material. And it's wonderful because it's both flexible, but it's also pretty much as sturdy as a good cardboard. So I have choices there. So this shows my spine area. And believe me, I've really been thinking this through because I had a variety of laces that I was looking at using as possible. So I have kind of mapped out how I want the cover to look. And that took a little doing. So what I am thinking about now, this is I've been working on this for a while. And what I am going to do is I don't want this to get crinkly when it's finished. So I do want to glue it. And did a test. I did a test using this fabric glue. It's an acetone-based glue by Beacon. It's meant for fabric. Dries really fast, but I was a little concerned as to whether it would bleed through or not. But what I did was I applied the glue and smeared it, and I'll show you how I did that, onto the Pellon material and then lightly laid the fabric over it. So I'll demonstrate that. But it is nice and smooth. It didn't bleed through. And this is just cotton fabric. It's just, lightweight quilt fabric. Nice and sturdy bond there. So I did a test. Always a good idea to do a test, right? So I did a test. And I needed to think through this whole process, and I highly recommend it's like in furniture making, they always do a dry fit. And it's super, super important to do a dry fit because you want to make sure everything's right before you put any glue on anything. So I've been thinking this through quite a bit, and I abandoned a couple of ideas, and I was thinking, well, I could sew it all the way around, just about hand sew the last bit. No, I don't want to do that because what I want to do is I want to add, this is okay, see this is the inside cover. So the signatures will be sewn here. And I want in the front, I want to put in a pocket, but I would like to sew on a pocket. So I have a bit of the material, which by the way, I love this so much. I bought 3 yards so that I can make a blouse with it. I only need a little teeny piece for the journal cover, but I bought 3 yards. So I'm going to be making a blouse with it. I love it. It's gorgeous. And I look good in yellow. So anyway, so one of the little offcuts here, I'm all ready to sew and make a pocket. And I will make the pocket and then I will pin it on to the inside front cover here. After I'm going to glue the fabric to this. Then I'm going to sew the pocket top flap. Then I'm going to sew it on the inside front cover. Okay. And then on the back, I have another offcut. I'm going to sew that into a gusset belly band, and that will hold the writing board. So I want to do all of this before I do the front cover, and then I'll show you how I'm going to put the front cover on. And this little bit of lace is going to go on the front cover, the front cover side, where the outside of the signatures area. So I've got plans, you know, and I used a lot of this lace on the inside. I'm going to use it on the outside. I've got some ribbon. I have a lovely doily to put on. So we're going to go through this step by step. So the first thing I want to do is this is the outside front cover. And so I'm going to be sewing this into a tube, which I'll turn right side out, and then that will become the belly band. I have the pocket pinned and ready to sew the top and then be able to pin it onto this inside cover. And the other thing that I need to think about is where the signatures are going to be sewn, because once I've covered this whole thing with fabric, I won't see these lines anymore. But I also drew the lines on the outside. So I'm going to do the signature placement markings after I've done this interior construction. I hope that makes sense. So I got to do this one bit at a time because this glue dries super fast, which is good. We want that. So what I've got here, get these things out of the way. So what I've got here is I have the fabric lined up and I gave wide margins so I can cut it down. And I gave it wide margins so I have lots of room for this, especially this first part, to have leeway. So, you know, I don't want to cut myself short at any point. I've only got one shot at this, including this video. So, whoo, I wanted to make sure everything was running. Let me make sure. Okay, yes, we are still video. All right. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start with this little section and I'm going to work my way across. So that way, am I coming out here? Yeah. That way I am assured that the glue won't be dry. And I can kind of smear this glue with the side of the tip. And that's what I'm doing. I'm smearing the glue with the side of the tip. That way I'm not getting my fingers sticky. And it's also going to be sewn, so I don't have to get too crazy with this, but I'm not going to be sewing every square inch. So I do want adhesion, especially on the inside. But if I spread it out with the tip like this, I'm minimizing how thick it is. I hope that makes sense. As I said, you know, it's really, really good to do some testing, do some experimenting, especially when you're dealing with fabric. Okay, see, that's looking good. So I'm just going to keep going with this and I'll speed it up now. All right, I am going to let this dry. I'll let that dry. I'm going to go and sew this, sew the top of this, turn that right side out and stitch that down. Then I can apply it to this is the inside front cover, and that's the inside back cover. So I'll go ahead and I'll let this dry. While that's drying, I can sew these pieces and get them ready. And then I'll stitch this on for sure. I'm going to have to think about this one a little bit first. Ooh, yes, I do want to add a little snippet of the lace to the top of this pocket. Okay, I have a plan, and I'll be back with that done. All right, I just kept going for it. I got the pocket sewn on. So got a little of that lace trim, and then what I realized is when I was getting this ready to sew on was that I needed to fold over the sides. At least that's what I decided to do. So I folded over the sides and mitered the corners so that as I stitched this on, making sure that it was away from what is going to be the spine area. Now, this is a flexible cover, so it's not critical, but I don't want it in the spine area. So anyway, I sized the pocket so it would fit pretty much the whole length, the whole width of that front cover. So it's a nice fabric pocket, if I do say so myself. And then I decided, since I folded over these edges, I would just go all the way around. I just felt, okay, let's just go all the way around. And while I was at it, then I could stitch down this belly band. And I was thinking about, with this belly band, it might look really nice adding another piece of lace, but it was getting kind of thick. And because I do need to add the front cover, the the outside of the cover fabric, I can decide later. So I just stitched this down. So it's just stitched down across the top and bottom. What I did was I stitched it into a tube and then turned it right side out. So this is fabric all the way around. Okay, so now that I have that, I have to make decisions on how I'm going to apply the cover and the outside cover fabric and the decoration that I want to add to the outside front cover. Whew, I got to think this through. So I pinked the edges, pinking sheared the edges, trimmed a little of the bulk off, and so now I'm going to do what I often do when I am hand stitching in a hem or something like that on a garment. So I want to think this through very carefully, and I want to make sure that I do all that fun stuff that I want to do. So I will go through the first corner with you, and then I'll speed it up as I work my way around. And there are things that I want to add. I want to add this to the spine area, and that will help define where the signatures are going to go. I want to add this pretty doily to the front cover. And I do want to add some more of kind of the theme lace that's inside the signatures and I'm using throughout this journal. So let me go ahead and do this tuck-in area, and then I will speed that up, and then we'll go on to the next thing, okay? So I'm just going to work with it a little at a time. So I'm going to create mitered corners here, and I'm going to set it up for top stitching. Now, that's just the easiest thing that I can think to do, is to set it up for top stitching. And I do want to put a little bit of fabric glue down, but I need to prepare the cover fabric first. So it's going to be a little fiddly, right? It's just the nature of it. It's just going to be a little bit fiddly. But I have done fiddly stuff before, and I want to make sure that I'm lining it up with the edge, and maybe just go over that edge just a little bit. So I'm going to tack it in place here and there just while I'm working on it so that I can Yeah, make sure the first part will be the most fiddly. And then it will get easier as I work my way around. But again, I want to make sure, and there's going to be some lace on here, so it'll cover up some of the fiddly bits. All right. So corner number 1. And yes, that lace is going to help considerably. And maybe I won't glue at all. Maybe I'll just do stitching. There'd be nothing wrong with that. So I do have an idea. I've just kind of made it a little bit more complicated on myself, perhaps, but hey, I think it's going to look wonderful when I get it done. So this will be kind of a on and off pinning kind of thing. I want to make sure that I stay lined up. The straight edges are much easier, obviously. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be gluing this. I am just going to be stitching. And then it will make it much easier for me to add the lace and any other decorative elements. I think will work much better that way. So I said, this is kind of the on and off part. Yeah. Okay. I do this as much by feel as sight, feeling those edges. Okay. Making sure I've still got everything lined up. Yeah. Okay, I am going to go around once and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I'm going to add all these goodies. Okay, here we go. So I have this little trim lace, and what I'm going to do with it is start at the center of this whole cover. So I'm going to mark that location. It doesn't have to be exact, but I kind of get into making things as exact as possible. And I am going to, this is where it gets a little more fiddly. I'm going to insert that lace all the way around to the edges. Okay, so I'm going for something like this. And when I'm at the sewing machine, I do minor adjustments so that it comes up nice and neat and even. But when I'm pinning it, it can be a little wonky. And that's just because pinning, bends things and throws them kind of out of kilter. So I'm just going to go ahead and work my way around. I'll speed that up. Then we'll go on, because there's one more thing I want to do. Let me see if I can show you this a little closer. It's definitely fiddly, but let's see if I can show you a little closer. So what I'm looking for is the continuation around the corner. So I basically have to do a kind of a reverse miter with this. So I have this little extra amount, and I'm just flattening it out. It's fiddly. It definitely is fiddly. Uh, yeah. Let's put that down as I want it to just kind of flatten out. And keep it going. It could be somewhat pointy or it can be a little flatter. It's tricky just getting it to go around the corner when it's this small. But so it's just something you kind of have to fiddle with, and there we go. Okay. So yeah, so I'm preferably anchoring my nice corner. I've made a nice corner here. It's got a nice mitered corner. So what I want to do is just keep that lace going. I am sure that those of you who have made things like this might know a better way of doing it. I mean, I could pre-sew it to this edge or something like that, but you know, I'm just winging it here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is go back to finding the center, and I want the center of this to be on the center. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold this in half and mark the center. There we go, mark the center there. Okay, let's mark the center here. And there's the top and the bottom. Okay. So I'll start here at the top. And what I want to do is insert this spine decoration inside. So it's inside. I've got that edge lace and it's inside. It's not wrapping over the edge lace that way. Okay. As I said, I think I'm making this more complicated than I needed to, but it's fun and it's going to be really pretty. Okay, so there is my center point. And so now that's a little, I want to make sure I have that located. And I'm lining up the center of this lace with that point. Make sure I keep it there. So now I want to tuck that under. So that it doesn't wrap over the edge lace, which I now have to line back up again, which is not a problem. Okay. I think I've got it. All right. So now that I have that, is there anything else? I mean, I do want to add this. So I think oops, a fly. Uh, so I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to just do a little light hand stitching of this doily after I've got the rest of this put together. And that way it'll look really nice. And on the other side of this is the top of the pocket. So maybe I will, this is a little shank button that I think looks kind of cute there. So I'll figure it out. Okay, is there anything else that I want to do before I commit? Well, I'm going to be doing a top stitching. I'll do a zigzag top stitch. And I don't know. I think that's probably enough. What do you think? That's I think that's going to be enough. I was thinking of doing a second layer, but getting that all sewn on is a little bit complicated. And I don't think it adds, it could be nice, but I don't think it adds a significant more, I don't know, it's pretty nice, huh? Oh my. Hmm. All right, well, I'm going to go sew and I'll decide later whether or not I'm going to do another layer. All right. So let me get all of this put together and I'll be back. All right, I am ready to do some assembly. I almost forgot to put a closure. I have this lovely ribbon that I used. Um, I did all the sewing and I double sewed. I did two of these so you can see the corners here and the layers. I decided it just looked so much nicer with this double layer of this pale yellow lace. I thought it looked really lovely. And what I did with this doily is that I hand sewed it on. And I hand sewed it on with a curved needle because there was no way I could use a straight needle and it go easily. So I did use a curved upholstery needle. And so the little edges are still loose. The button goes all the way through to the back. I went ahead and I just held the little pocket aside, and there's a couple of little stitches there, but they're all hidden by the pocket. And I did add in this strip of lace in the middle. So the whole thing is sewn all the way around with two layers of lace and this. And we'll get to that yarn in a minute. Because what I realized is when I put this strip here, I was going, what I'd really, really like is for when the signatures are inserted, when they're sewn in, I want to do the three-hole pamphlet stitch. I want it to look nice on the spine. So I've never done this before, but I have to decide where the holes for the signatures are on the spine, on the outside of the spine. So the first thing I did is I made a template with the signatures. So this matches the signatures, and I've got two of them again. So I made a template so I'd know exactly where things were. And I'm using the center of this lace, and I aligned it from top to bottom to allow the same little bit of margin of the cover. And once I knew where the center was, it was more about changing my direction here. And I poked holes from the outside in. But with all these layers, there's the possibility of shifting and all that. So I just did it this way. I decided that I had this little strand of yarn. I went ahead and I poked the holes, and as I poked the holes, I had a needle ready with the yarn, and I followed the poking of the holes with the yarn. And so it goes through all the holes. So now I am ready to do the signatures. And I'm going to use this as my template for the signatures and poke those holes. So then when I go to sew it, I'm going to pull the yarn out at the same time as I am sewing the signatures in. And that way the holes through all these layers will stay in alignment. At least that's how I see it in theory. So then I thought, oh, I could use that yarn. But I decided, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a double strand of embroidery floss because I like the darker yellow. Either would work. Obviously, either would work. There's only two signatures. So I'm thinking having those two lines would look nice. And I am using some darker yellows on the interior, so it all works. It's all good. So that's what I am going to do now. But this was why I have yarn poking out of all those signature holes, right? So, yeah. Um, and so because I did 2 layers of this edge lace, I do have 2 layers of zigzag stitches all the way around the edge. So this cover is extra sturdy. It's just great, you know? I mean, if somebody wanted to, they could, I'm not going to do any kind of elastic or anything like removable pages, but this cover would be certainly suitable for if I wasn't going to sew them in to put in. I know some journal makers put in eyelets and then they'll use elastic, and that would be suitable for this kind of a cover too, something removable. But I'm going to go ahead sew in the signatures. All right. Okay, I've sewn in the second signature first. It's toward the back. I have found that a little easier for me is work back to front. And that worked out. I wanted to do it off camera because I've never done it this way before. So, and it worked. It worked. It was, I'm just being very, very careful because, of course, whenever you're using, well, just about anything, embroidery floss or any kind of cord, there's always the risk of splitting the thread. And here I'm holding 2 threads. And I kind of like holding 2 threads because, as it turns out, having it looped through the needle, I don't have to worry about it sliding out of the needle. I could really like using two threads going. So anyway, I've got this one in and it worked. It worked great. And it was a wonderful idea, I think, to have put the yarn. It made it so much easier to find where things need to go. And and the needle went through really easily. So I am ready to do signature number 2. And rather than poke, I could poke through like this, but then I need to remove it before I stitch it. So I kind of shortcut for myself. I just fold it in half and it's the same result. I still see where things are supposed to go. So I am ready to put this signature in. And yes, I could clamp it and all kinds of things, but I haven't seemed to have any trouble just diving in with it. And I like to put the needle in immediately on a 3-hole pamphlet stitch to hold it in place. And then I usually go straight to putting the second hole in. All right. So here we go. So I am going to pull the yarn out at the same time as I am going to put the needle in. And that way, if I do it slowly, nothing moves because there's that lace on the front and it could move a little less easily now because it's stitched in place with the first signature, but this way the yarn comes out, the hole is visible, the needle goes in, and I am through. It's exactly where I want it to be. I love that. I'm going to remember that technique. So I'm leaving the pokey tool in there. I have this other piece of yarn, and that actually is connected up here. So I take that one away. So now I'm going to hold the lace, hold the cover, the lace, everything all at once, and pull that out. The hole is visible, not for the camera, but for me. The needle went in very easily. The hole is already established. And finally, the last piece of yarn. Yarn out and needle in. I think that worked very well. All right, now tighten things up a little bit. I can't make it too tight because I still have to do a two-step process. So this is where it gets especially tricky. All right. So I'm reestablishing where the hole is. A little hard to see on camera, but I'm putting the needle through the pokey tool through again, the awl, and it's not splitting the thread, but it helps me see. It helps me see where to put the needle in because that hole is not very visible now that there is yarn in it or embroidery floss. So I do a little dance there with the awl and the needle so that I can get everything lined up. And this is the trickiest one of all, always. All right, once again, I can see the awl through there. Okay, I'm going to take it off here for a minute because if I need to get a better angle on it. There we go. See, that's one thing about having a flexible cover. It makes it a little easier for me to get a good angle on going back into that final hole. So that is why I wanted to do that. Okay. So, whoops, excuse me. So now I want to make sure that everything is tight. Whew, this project is almost there. Okay, let me make sure everything is where it's supposed to be and if I've missed anything, and we'll do a flip through. All right. Okay, I'm ready for the flip through. Let's take a look at this beauty. I think it came out really pretty. There was a lot of unexpected twists and turns. And when you're making a piece of art, that happens. Sometimes things change. And the first change that happened was having to do with the writing board. So I made a writing board that had a nice bird picture there. Originally, the writing board was going to go in the belly band in the back. But I sewed on an extra piece of lace and had extra zigzag stitching over the belly band, so the writing board doesn't fit anymore. Well, either I have to make a new writing board and it fits in the pocket I put in the front. Wonderful. Okay. But that's one of those little twists and turns. So here we have the first signature, and the two signatures are very much the same. Now, I was thinking, now I'll leave some links down in the description box because one of the things that I have created is this library card pocket, and it's a little PDF, and you can download it for free from my Buy Me a Coffee site and make your own library cards and pockets. So it has both sides, and you can tuck it in this way, or you can wrap the flaps around the back. So that's a choice. And I didn't glue it into this journal because whoever winds up with this journal, they might want to put a book plate here, or do something else. I want to give them options, right? So I did have a lot of fun with my stencils and rubber stamps. So rubber stamp, stencil, there's lots of lace going throughout, a lot of decorative elements, good pockets, lots of writing spots. This is that doily book, and there's a separate video for that. So you can go watch that. Lots of little fun things. This is that flip up, flip down thing that I'd made. There's a tuck spot here if somebody wanted to use it. And the center folds on both of them are full of stuff. So there's all of these flip ups that are writing spots. They all have these fun little flip down faux envelope writing spots with this little pocket that's hidden. This particular one has a pretty notepad. And the inside has the placemat doily. So it's glued on the bottom, and potentially, I made some writing cards, potentially could have two in each of these. I chose to just put one in, but cards would fit in there, all kinds of things. And on this side, we have another one of those pretty bird photos. And this is a separate video, is this little journal card with a tag. There's the hidden pocket with another of the envelopes made of the Easter egg dyed paper. I must do much more of that Easter egg dyed paper. It just really had some wonderful results. And another flip up writing spot. The other side of that. These roses that I've used as a stencil, it's a vintage stencil. Actually, I have it over here. And wow, I don't know how old this is, but it is made of cardboard and they're not available anymore. But you never know what you might find. So I'd have a couple of envelopes. In this case, it is the flap is glued in on this page. And in this envelope, I just put another little notepad. It's just stapled, a little bit of rubber stamping, just a little pretty piece of the Easter egg dyed paper left over from the project. Another little flip open envelope. And the backside of this signature, that stenciling, and the big fold out. And I made a couple of these. I saw Natasha on Treasure Books make this fun little pocket bookmark. So I just made 3 different size tags to fit in it. I'll put a link for her video here on the description box too. So there we go. That's the first signature. Second signature is pretty much the same. Different photos. There's another one of those little spots, little tag things. Another doily book with a charm. And there's these little pockets on both of them. This is just a piece of origami paper. So when I was playing around with the shapes and all of that, I went, well, I have a triangular pocket. I can put in a piece of triangular folded paper. And the other envelope. So this one, again, it's glued on. Got some pretty images. Now in this envelope, what I did was I put in little scrappy bits. There's a piece of the cover fabric. There's a little bit of that extra lace and some ribbon and some offcuts. So there's some things for someone to play with. And there's more of the rubber stamping. I love these. These are really pretty. Versatile. Can do a lot with them. Another pocket. And this one just has a little, just a few little papers. Another tuck spot. And the back page. Again, the fold out and another card. And so the belly band, since it can't hold the writing board, I wound up making 3 of these cards for that video. So I decided, well, I'll just include that card in the belly band. And I made a bit of a notepad with some of that yarn that came in very handy for the spine. So this is just a mixture of leftover papers from the project. And there you have it, the Yellow and Lacey journal. I hope that you got some fun ideas with this, and maybe you'll take on, if you have a sewing machine and you like to sew, maybe you'll take on a sewn cover. And those of you who do sew and are watching mine and going like, oh, there's such an easier way to do it, I would love to hear your comments. Um, but I didn't mind, I was experimenting and experiencing this for the first time. Yes, I did those vinyl covers before, but this was different. This uh, working with the fabric and doing something different. And that's what is wonderful about art. You've just got to keep trying different things, experimenting, and you never know what's going to happen. I think it came out very nice. I'm pleased with it. And I thank you so much for watching. I do hope you're inspired. Let me know in the comments. So that is it for the Yellow and Lacy Journal. It is available in my Etsy shop. And I hope you'll join me in my next video. Bye for now.